I'll give you a second to guess what's inside this box. If you guessed special edition football boots, you'd be correct, this time from Nike, in the form of the Phantom GT Scorpion, which is a special edition football boot bearing a $10 premium on the usual $250 retail price, inspired by a commercial that came out 25 years ago that the vast majority of you watching this video have probably never heard of. But hey, there's a really cool looking scorpion on the side. Backstory aside, which we'll get into regarding this colorway, I want to talk about where the Phantom GT sits in the current landscape of not just Nike football boots, but all of the new and very good football boots that have come out in the last 3 to 4 month period, now that we've all kind of digested the hype of a brand new Nike model. Is the Phantom GT still worth your time, and not so much time, but money? I guess it's both, because it does take time to make money. You get what I'm saying. So if you want to get a better look at this colorway, as well as hear my thoughts and opinions on whether or not I think the Phantom GT is worth it, and of course how they fit and feel on feet, please stick around, watch the entire video, and if you are interested in a pair of these for yourself, while they are special edition, they aren't necessarily limited, and they are available in both the low-cut version that I have here, as well as a mid-cut variation, which bears a $20 premium rather than a $10 premium. I'm not sure why that's the case. Either way, if you're interested in any version or any colorway of the Phantom GT, first link down below or the little pop-up in the corner of the screen, that's going to take you to the review page on my website, where you'll be able to pick them up below their normal retail price. As always, if you guys do end up enjoying this video, please don't forget to support it with a like, and feel free to leave your video suggestion ideas down below in the comment section. Plus, if you are new here watching for the first time and don't want to miss out on weekly content on everything football boots, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. Very quickly, I just want to go over the extras that come with this boot. It does come in the normal gray and black Nike Elite model box that happens to match these boots, but it's nothing special. And then of course you do get a string bag, which is special and does match the boots very well. You can see it's a light gray base with this kind of metallic silver overlay in this shard pattern, and it features the Scorpion logo, also found on the boots in black, with the Phantom GT branding in yellow there at the bottom, black strings, and nothing on the back. It is a very cool string bag that gets a string bag rating of Scorpion out of Tarantula. Very quickly, I just want to talk about the colorway, because I think that this is easily the best one that we've seen of the Phantom GT so far, and the boots in general just look really cool. It's a slight design variation over the regular Phantom GT, in that you'll notice there's a giant Scorpion logo on the side in place of a Nike swoosh right about here, where this stripe would normally flow right up to the Nike swoosh. It's kind of broken up, almost looking like it's painted on. They've also moved up the Phantom GT logo, which you see in yellow, that does disrupt the generative texture on the upper in a pretty crucial spot, again calling into question the impactfulness of that technology like I talked about in previous videos. It is a chrome color with a little bit of kind of a pattern similar to the string bag. It's very subtle. You can see a little bit of matte, a little bit of gloss, but it all kind of just ends up looking chrome, especially from a distance. The Scorpion logo looks phenomenal. It's got some 3D texture to it. You can see on the one side, it says Secret Tournament, which is a reference to the commercial that this is all about. And it says Engineered for Skills on the opposite side of the circle. It has the Phantom logo in black and yellow on the back. And then the warning, I guess, black and yellow stripes here on the top, as well as on the aglet or lace tips, which is a cool detail and a reference to the goalposts found in the Secret Tournament in the cage on a ship. Are you confused yet? You might be a little bit. And then on the bottom, you can see that it does have kind of like this black chrome wearable finish. That is a wearable finish, by the way. And it does have the Scorpion logo again in yellow right in the middle of the 4-foot stud plate. And then the insole, fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. It is yellow in color with, again, the Scorpion logo in black. So even though I personally think the vast majority of people that will end up buying these boots don't at all care about the commercial, it came out in March of 2002. It was a secret tournament basically featuring all of Nike's headline players at the time that was held on a ship hosted by Eric Cantona inside of a cage with small-sided goals, of course in the yellow and black. And the reason why the boots are chrome is the official match ball for the tournament was a chrome Nike ball, the official logo for that tournament being a scorpion. Why a scorpion, you ask? Well, because the scorpion logo is really cool looking, and there's not really much of an explanation beyond that. Also Elvis. But that's enough about colorways and commercials. Let's get to the main question here. Should you buy a Phantom GT in late 2020? Obviously, what was maybe not controversial, but more so surprising about the Phantom GT is that it took over for two different models within Nike's lineup, both the Phantom Venom and the Phantom Vision 2, both killed off and replaced by the Phantom GT, reducing Nike's main lineup of football boots from 4 models to 3 models. And the end result is a football boot that I think takes more inspiration from the Phantom Venom than it did the Phantom Vision, but ultimately kind of just feels like a Mercurial with some added texture and a new shape, which could be a very good thing or a very bad thing depending on what you were hoping for. Now, despite the technology-focused narrative that Nike likes to put out with all of their new football boots, what you're getting with the Phantom GT is actually a pretty simple design by Nike standards. The upper is entirely made out of a thin Flyknit material with no real padding to it. In that regard, it kind of relates back to the simpler days of Flyknit football boots, like kind of the Nike Mercurial Superfly 4, which some people might be a little bit upset with me comparing it to that, but it's kind of that level of simplicity to the Flyknit. There are no Flywire or Brio cables as a reinforcement element, so that element has been taken away from the Phantom Venom that this replaces, and unlike the Phantom Vision, this does not have an internal quad fit system. Instead, it's just lined in a synthetic leather with some little circular cutouts. Again, kind of similar to what you're gonna find on the Mercurial as of right now. It's not as responsive, it's not as secure as the Mercurial, but the upper definitely has some nice flexibility to it. Then there's the GT aspect of the name, which stands for generative texture. It's not a sports car reference like a lot of people think it is, and that is all of these little lines that are debossed on the upper. They're actually printed on the surface, and it's actually a significant amount of texture. If you run your thumb along this and you just did it really, really fast, it's kind of uncomfortable. It's that level of roughness if you've never had the chance to hold them in your hands. The amount of grip provided on the ball is somewhat noticeable, maybe for the first 10 minutes if you're used to wearing a pair of boots that don't have as much grip, but it's certainly not a sticky type of grip, and it's something that you stop noticing once you get used to the boots pretty quickly. Basically what I'm getting at here is if you compare this to the demon skin rubber spikes found on the current Predator series, it is nowhere near the same grip levels. Although again, they have also touted that this is some very fancy, very specifically generated texture pattern for the sake of maximum performance, but you can see when it gets to the Nike swoosh, the texture just changes to something very generic. So I always question how much of this pattern is really going to improve your game. And honestly, if you're buying football boots, hoping that some micro texturing is going to make you a more skilled player, you should practice more. Adding to the technology of generative texture is ACC All Conditions Control. You can see the branding there on the medial side under this very small Nike swoosh. And then also another signature element of this boot is the off-centered lacing system being pushed slightly towards the lateral side, which does kind of relate this back to yet another Venom model or another Phantom model, which is the Hyper Venom Phantom, the boot that started it all, the boot that is looked back on as one of Nike's greatest ever achievements that they unfortunately completely destroyed the reputation of with its successor, the Hyper Venom Phantom 2. And the off-centered lacing system is good or bad depending on how you want to look at it. It's a wider shape than I think a lot of people would expect, and I don't think that the way that this lacing system is cut necessarily works the best in terms of having the upper grab your foot really snug on either the lateral or the medial side. You end up with some pretty ugly folds, although again, that's going to vary a lot from person to person based on the specific shape of your feet. But if you just like having the laces kind of being pushed slightly out of the way, leaving you with a cleaner surface to pass and strike the ball, you do get that with these that you wouldn't get with most other football boots that are currently available from Nike or other brands. Moving to the rear, as mentioned earlier, this is the low-cut version of the Phantom GT, which is also the least expensive. expensive. They do sell a mid-cut version for more money. It is the world's smallest collar and quite frankly not worth the money at all. Unless you absolutely must have it, I would definitely opt for the low cut. The construction and fit in the heel is identical regardless of which one you go for. You do have an internal plastic heel counter, and then the heel liner is very straightforward, being made from a synthetic suede kind of microfiber material, a decent amount of padding, again, very similar to a pair of Mercurials. Then the insole, that is fully removable, and again, features very much a Mercurial-esque design in that you have the standard kind of mesh Nike grip liner. This doesn't have the Nike grip branding, of course, but it just feels like a regular mesh, not particularly grippy at all. And then it's made from a single layer of this yellow foam with a harder white foam insert that has a very particular pattern that actually lines up with the pattern on the underside of the sole plate to help hold it in place. Moving to the base, you're going to find Nike's new Hyper Quick system, as they call it, which again is kind of just a variant of the Mercurials that is a little bit less impressive, I would say. It's certainly more flexible as well, which I think is partially what they were going for and makes sense given the less structured, more flexible upper that the Phantom GT has. But you can see it's kind of an unofficial split sole, and that technically the heel stud plate and the forefoot stud plate are attached by this bar running down the lateral side. It does also allow for a little bit of extra kind of torsional flexion, which is nice because again, this feels a little bit more natural in terms of how it bends with your foot. Still does have a physical sole plate, although that sole plate is not anatomically shaped. It is more traditional in terms of being pretty much completely flat. Then the FG stud pattern, again, features a very similar layout to what you're gonna find on the Mercurials, but instead of all the studs being these chevron blades, some of them are conical studs with a little bit of a split and then kind of a slide in either direction to basically, again, kind of like what we've seen from Nike several times over the years, give you this freedom of rotation when your foot is planted. Ultimately, it just feels like a slightly less aggressive variation of the Mercurial stud pattern, which for most people is not going to be a bad thing. And then finally, when it comes to weight, there's really nothing that special about the Phantom GT. In a size 9.5 US, you'll find that the boots weigh in at 7.5 ounces, the equivalent of 213 grams, which puts it in the same weight range as pretty much both models that it replaces, both the Vision and the Venom, although I think technically the Venom was maybe a little bit lighter. Again, if we're comparing this to Nike's current lineup of boots, it's almost the same as the Tiempos, and they're a little bit heavier than the Mercurials, but most boots fall in between the 6 and 8 ounce weight range anyways these days, so this is about what you would expect for a top-end football boot. So as you can see, I've swapped out the stock gray laces, which do also have the reflective bits, but whenever you try to match a really light gray to chrome, it never ends up matching properly. So I've changed them for some black reflective SR4U replacement laces, which of course maintain the reflective bits, and you get the contrast with the black, which I just think looks a lot better on this particular colorway. It's a great and inexpensive way of changing up the style of your boots. If you're interested in some for yourself, the website to visit is www.sr4ulaces.com. That will be linked down below in the description. Now on feet, I must say that this colorway looks absolutely fantastic, especially with the matching yellow and black Pure Grip socks, which are available at puregripsocks.com in 9 different colors for just $14.99 a pair. Link to that is down below in the description. Shameless plug. But as far as the feel of the Phantom GT is concerned, I think they're really comfortable football boots, but I don't think that the fit is a 10 out of 10. Again, like I've talked about in this video, it kind of is just a slightly wider variation of the Mercurial in terms of what it compares to the most in terms of feel. The thin flyknit upper, while not as structured as the Mercurial, is very flexible. It moves nicely with your foot. There's not much in the way of break-in time here, but the width and volume of this boot and the way that the upper kind of bends with your foot because of this off-centered lacing system isn't the cleanest execution by Nike. You can see when I bend my foot how much creasing and kind of pulling away from my foot the material does, which isn't necessarily something that you notice when playing in the boots, but it's not the best execution in comparison to a lot of other models that have done off-centered lacing systems in the past. So something to be aware of, but again, I think that this is really a boot that appeals to somebody that simply does not fit in a pair of Mercurials, and in terms of width and volume, these are definitely the widest option on offer from the Nike brand, even more so than the Tiempo. I know for a long time the Tiempo has kind of been the go-to model for wider foot types within Nike. I think right now that is definitely the Phantom GT. There is plenty of width here to where I think that these are going to fit just about anybody. And if you did have narrower feet as well, the lacing system does cinch up enough to where the boots will feel secure, but just keep in mind there's a decent amount of width pretty much all the way through. And then there's the sizing, which is also a little bit different from other Nike models, where I would say that these run maybe about a quarter size long. So I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and they're a touch longer than most other Nike boots would normally be. If I went down a half a size, they'd be a little bit too small for me. So that's something that you kind of have to play by ear if you are looking at a pair. If you're currently wearing Nike boots and they feel like they're maybe a little bit too snug, then I would probably stay true to size for the Phantom GT. But if you're wearing a pair of Nike boots and you feel like they're maybe just a little bit too big, then going half a size down might be the best option for you. That's a call that you kind of have to make on your own. Just know that they run, like I said, about a quarter size long. So in conclusion, is the Phantom GT a complete failure? And I think the answer to that question is going to depend on your perspective when it comes to football boots. If you've always been a fan of the Mercurial series, but your feet are a little bit too wide to fit comfortably in a pair of Mercurials, effectively what Nike have made here is a slightly wider variation of the Mercurial that maybe isn't quite as 10 out of 10 in the more objective performance characteristics as the current Mercurial is, but it comes pretty darn close and is going to give you generally the same experience with a wider fit. And in Nike's defense, a wider fitting variation of the Mercurial is something that consumers seem to have been asking for since the dawn of the Mercurial series, and given the fact that Mercurials are the single most popular football boots on the market, I don't really blame Nike for making a football boot that is so similar to try and please what is clearly the largest chunk of consumers. With that said, if you're more interested in what's new and what's objectively good when it comes to top-end football boots, I do think that the Phantom GT is a bit of a failure. If we're talking about Nike alternatives, I don't think it's objectively as good as the Mercurials. If you fit in those, that's definitely the one you should buy, and it doesn't really compare to the Tiempo, neither do the Mercs. That's kind of a boot for Tiempo people and Tiempo people alone. If you're comparing this to other flagship models from other brands, they're kind of categorizing this as a control/skills boot with the engineered for skills branding. But if we're comparing this to the main control boot from Adidas right now, the Predator 20 series, whether it's the Plus or the 0.1, the demon skin rubber elements on those boots really separate them from absolutely everything else. And if you're comparing the grip levels on those compared to the grip levels on these, there is no comparison. The Predator is a much more unique and I guess interesting experience, and arguably a better pair of football boots. And then obviously Puma is super hot right now. There's a lot of attention on the King Platinum, which has been a great boot for a little while now, but people are just now starting to notice. If that's your style, absolutely, that's a great direction to go into. But if we're comparing this to something like the Puma Ultra 1.1, technically a different style of football boot, but this is definitely not that far away from the speed category in my opinion. And given the choice between these and a Puma Ultra, the Puma Ultra I think just blows these out of the water. And yes, that was a tournament held on a ship joke. And then to go back to Adidas, the new X Ghosted series, both the Plus and 0.1, while I think fairly different football boots in comparison to the Phantom GT, the tech and the features that they have on offer and the way that those elements work together to create an experience unlike any other football boot, it's something that I just can't say about the Phantom GT, which really does just feel like a watered down variation of the Mercurial. It's a really good football boot, and if you get a pair of Phantom GTs, I don't think you're gonna be unhappy with them, but I really feel like this is Nike putting out a product that is good enough and really trying to push it through with their marketing power rather than just making a better football boot in the first place. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, you can click the first link down below. That's gonna take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $260 retail price, $250 in other colors, but this of course is special edition. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below in the comment section and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.